What is up, Packers fans? Welcome back to another edition of the positional tiers for the Green Bay Packers, the Packer People Top 300 checklist. I'm your host, Jacob Morley. Guys, buy the draft guide if you have not done that already. Everything we're talking about on these episodes, it comes directly from the Packer People Top 300 checklist, which is in the draft guide powered by Packer Report. Those of you that have already bought one, we just really appreciate you guys. The positive comments and the support has been super great, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, for real. And if you have bought the guide already and you want to drop a comment in the comment section, a positive comment, we'll make sure you give you a shout out on the next episode. If you want to tweet about it on the X or Twitter machine or whatever it's called now, make sure you do that. We'll give you a retweet, all that stuff, just because we do appreciate anyone that wants to support us, and we want to support you guys as well, and give you guys a shout out. So today we're going to talk about wide receivers, and wide receiver is one that I think we have nailed. I think we've cracked the code. I think we know exactly what Green Bay wants. People have been bugging me about this episode. I'm sure this will be the most viewed episode, because we're going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now who the Packers are going to take at wide receiver. Okay. And if you want to know, there are 5 guys, 5 tier 1 perfect fits. There are several guys that are close that we don't have testing on. That could also be it, but we're going to focus on the guys with full testing, because typically Green Bay, they value that. They want guys that have a full slate of testing. I think the only guy in recent memory that they've taken that didn't have a full athletic profile was Jaden Reed, who they kind of dipped outside their norms anyways. I think they view slot guys a little bit differently than what they traditionally value. But even so, Jaden Reed was still really close. He didn't have any disqualifiers. He just had a lot of stuff he was really close on. So again, there are 5 in this year's draft class. Guys that we have talked about ad nauseum already on Twitter. I'm going to give you the guys that I think are the 2 most likely, and this is just based off of where they fall in the rankings, what I see with my own eyeballs when I watch them, and that's what I think they're going to do. Just to kind of give you a background of guys that the Packers have taken that have been tier 1 wide receivers. Jaden Reed wasn't. He was a tier 2 type guy, really close. Dontavian Wicks was a tier 1. Grant Dubose was a tier 1. Samori Toure was a tier 1. Jordy Nelson was a tier 1. Devontae Adams was a tier 1. Greg Jennings was a tier 1. James Jones was a tier 1. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a tier 1. Equinemius St. Brown, tier 1. Going back further than that, Javon Walker, who was drafted by Mike Sherman, the last wide receiver taken in the first round by Green Bay. I don't even know if Sherman had the same rules, but he was a tier 1. Robert Ferguson was a tier 1. Derek Mays was a tier 1. I'm just going off the top of my head, too. So pretty much most of, if not, I think over 90% of the wide receivers they've taken in the last 25, 30 years have fit into that category of tier 1. Things that they look for in wide receivers, they've got a size, they've got a height, speed, they value change of direction ability, they value explosiveness. So you look at 3-cone, you look at broad jumps, production. They want guys that are productive at the wide receiver position. Greg Jennings led the NCAA in receiving yards and catches, I believe, at Western Michigan. Devontae Adams was right up there, top 5 at least. Jordy Nelson might have had the triple crown. I don't know, but he was super productive. James Jones was super productive. Randall Cobb, who was not a tier 1 guy size-wise, was super productive at Kentucky. He did everything for them. So they value production. They value, and this is something that Ron Wolf has said, words out of his mouth. They care. This isn't on the list, but it is kind of like an added bonus if you want to look at it. They care if you have you return kicks. They care a lot about guys that were punt returners and kick returners. And I think that just goes into they care a lot about yak. And if you're a punt returner, you've got not only the athleticism, but you've got the field vision, all that stuff. That probably means you're one of the best athletes on your team as well at the college level. So that's something that they value. Something that we've been kind of kicking around a little bit too is hand size as well. A lot of these guys have like 70 percentile and above hand size. And when you're playing in Green Bay, I think that's important. It's just like the quarterback position. They value that there too. It's cold. If you've ever been in the cold, it hurts. It can hurt. It doesn't feel great. And if you've got small hands, it's going to be harder to hold on to that football. So I think that's something they value. They value blocking. That's so when you watch the tape, make sure you're looking at guys that will get after it in the run game. So without any further ado, the player that I think is most likely in this year's draft class to be a Green Bay Packer is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Someone we have talked about a lot. He's a big-time Packer favorite. He's someone I put ahead of someone even like Jaden Higgins just because I think Royals is going to be available in the second, maybe even third round. I think the Packers have shown time and time again, that's where they value this position. They could take a guy in round one this year. I think they're doing work on some of these round one guys. I think they just would prefer to take them in rounds 2 or 3. And that's typically what they do. But when you look at Royals, he solves a lot of your Christian Watson issues. He's a bomber. He's someone that can get deep. He's a vertical threat, but he's not only a vertical threat. He is a guy that can beat you short. He can beat you intermediate. He is a guy that did return kicks at Utah State. And once the ball is in his hands, he is explosive. He is hard to get to the ground. He is a track speed type guy. He ran in the 4.4s, but you talk to people in that Utah State program, they think he's more of a 4.3, maybe even touching 4.2 type guy when he's healthy. He is coming off an injury that he did test, and he did all the testing. So, props to him for ending his season with an injury and then coming out and competing and doing every single drill. I love that. I mean, it's not a prereq. You don't have to do everything. Guys are great every single year without running 40s, without running 3 cones, without doing this stuff. But I love the competitiveness. I love that you're willing to go out there and say, hey, I'm good at this, and I want people to see that I'm good at this. So I'm going to do it. And that's great. I mean, that's becoming more and more rare in the draft process this year. He's someone production-wise. 2 years ago, Utah State had a huge productive year, was on his way to potentially leading the NCAA in receiving yards his last year before he got hurt. He just was putting up monster numbers before he got injured. So he's someone that if you say anyone in this class, rounds 1 through 7, Jacob, who do you think is going to be a Packer? Jalen Royals is the guy that I think will be a Packer by May 1st. Like I believe it. We'll see. Let's see. 2 years ago, I think I don't even want to say that, but I think we got the Dontavian Wicks one right. And I think we got the year before that, right? I think it was Christian Watson. This is something that if you want to go look back at their history, this is something you can look at too. But it's all right there in the guide. So check it out. Jalen Royals, boom. That's my number one guy for the Packers. Fit, scheme, opportunity cost is part of that too. Do I think he's the best wide receiver in this year's draft class? No, I don't. But I think for the Packers, where it aligns and where things make sense, I do think he is probably the number one guy that I think will be a Packer. The second guy is someone that he's not getting a ton of hype, and I wish he would get more because he's a really, really fun, good football player, and his name is Isaac Tesla from Arkansas. He is a big dude. He's 6'4", 215-ish, and ran in the 4.43, but had a 6.85 3-cone. I mean, his movement ability is rare. His broad jump was right where they needed to be. His production score is interesting because you look at him, and at Arkansas, he wasn't super productive. He had a couple of 500-yard plus years. He wasn't even their number one receiver. That was Andrew Armstrong was their go-to guy on that Arkansas team. And check Andrew Armstrong out too because he might be a Packer. But Tesla is a guy that you go back and look at his D2 tape, and you might say, hey, you're bending the rules a little bit here. And I might be. I don't actually know how I feel about this. But at Hillsdale College, he was productive. He was like the most productive D2 college football player at the wide receiver position. So he's someone to keep an eye on for the Packers. He returned kicks at Hillsdale. He did everything. In high school, I love his bio in high school. He was like a wildcat quarterback in high school, under-recruited, was a track athlete. I think he won regional and maybe even state titles in like the long jump. won a state title in football, was on a basketball team that I think won back-to-back state titles. So you're talking about a guy that was a multi-sport athlete at the prep level, under-recruited, went to Hillsdale. That's where his dad played. So I think he was a second generation player there for Hillsdale College, and then went to the SEC. Didn't have the jump that I think they probably would have anticipated for him, and that's something to stow away. And that's probably why you're going to get him where you're going to get him. He's not a day one or day two type guy. It wouldn't shock me though if he ended up going on day two. I think people are going to look at this year's receiver class. They're going to look at what he brings to the table, and I think teams in the NFL might be higher on him than draft Twitter is. So that's something to stow away and keep an eye on. He's a 9.99 percentile athlete, 9.92 RAS. So he is a freakazoid type athlete. People are going to see that he is white and compare him to Jeff Janis. And honestly, it's not bad. It's not the worst comp in the world. But I think Tesla is a little bit more of a loose athlete. I think he plays the wide receiver position a little bit more naturally than Janis did. But honestly, if you get Tesla on round 6 or 7, and he has the type of career that Janis did, I think you're actually pretty happy with that. And I think a lot of people realize that, but some people need to realize that if you're a 7th round draft pick, you play out your rookie contract, and you're a valuable member at any facet of the game for an NFL team, that's a good contract. That's cheap. And you're useful. NFL teams love that. So I think his upside though is immense. I think he's someone that, if he lands in the right scheme, he is a guy that could absolutely outplay his draft slot. I think he can play outside, but he played mostly inside at Arkansas. If you want another comp for him, could be Allen Lazard on steroids. He is a stud. I mean, I don't want to say that, but he is really good, guys. That's it for us today at the wide receiver episode. If you want the rest of the wide receivers, make sure you're buying the draft guide. You'll get every single one of them. It's a great resource for draft day. But again, that's it for us. We'll catch you guys next time. And as always, be excellent to each other and go Pack Go.